Good morning, guys. You pumped to be at church today? Where are our dads at? Can we see some hands? Let's make some noise for our dads again. Man, you guys are awesome. I hope that your family gives you a chance to just chill and relax today. But look, if they've got you doing chores around the house, we've got the way for you to do the chores today. We got a picture we can put up. Look, have the kids help out today. Whether you're getting groceries or doing stuff around the house, put the kids to work today. Today's Dad's Day. So we hope that you have an awesome day. We hope that you have a relaxing day. And some of our dads are having a super relaxing day because they just stayed at home and they're watching online this morning. So can we make some noise for our online family? Whether you are watching online or here in the room, we're just psyched to be with you for church today. And if we haven't met before, my name is Cotter and I am the Next Steps pastor. And how many of you guys know that being a dad is hard work? Like, being a dad is no joke. I mean, first off, you have to know how to literally fix everything. A light bulb breaks, like, you got to be there. The car starts making a weird sound, or the dishwasher gets clogged or stops working. Like, you got to be there to get things done, get it working, find the duct tape, make it happen. And some dads are really great at fixing things. Like my brother, he could literally fix anything. My father-in-law, he could fix anything. Other dads like me have media production degrees. And so we're just trying to figure out how to tie our shoes in the morning. But you got to be able to fix everything. And also, like, when mom's not around, you have to keep the kids alive. You got to keep them alive. You got to get them fed, get them to wherever they need to go. Like, being a dad is hard work. And I remember seeing the dad struggle firsthand. When I was a kid, every January, my mom would go away for like a week, and she would go to this big sales convention down in Georgia. And so she'd be away for a whole week. And that meant that all of us kids were just with dad all week long. And so he was just trying to keep us alive. And that week, it felt like a year. Sometimes it felt like it was never going to end. We didn't know if we were going to make it or not. And I remember, like, one day, vividly, one morning from all of those years, we got up, my brother, sister, and I, and it was like a school day. And so we got up, we were sitting at the counter waiting for breakfast. And my dad is just, like, scrambling around the house trying to get us breakfast. And so he was trying to keep it simple on himself. And so he was like, okay, the only thing you guys are allowed to eat is cereal and orange juice. That's all we're eating this morning. And so he gets the bowls out, he gets the cereal out, and he starts pouring the cereal into the bowls, and then he reaches over, grabs the jug, and pours it in, and he realizes that he poured the orange juice into the cereal and not the milk. And his reaction was so funny because he just, like, stared at it for a super long time, and he just accepted defeat, and he just dropped it in the sink and started to make another one. It was like, in that moment, it was like the struggle of, like, keeping us all alive had, like, gotten to him, and he was just like, I can't even think straight anymore. And being a dad can be tough, man. Sometimes you just need a win. And so today our goal is to give you a win. We're going to look at a story in the Bible that celebrates you guys, celebrates you dads, and the impact that you have on your family. So I hope that today is an encouragement for you. And look, if you're not a dad, today's message is awesome. There's a lot of really cool things that we're going to see in this story. So we're going to hop into the Bible. And look, if you don't have a Bible, we've got free Bibles for you. We'd love for you to grab one. They're out in the lobby. They're big. They're orange. They're right next to the coffee. Real easy to find. Another way that I love to read the Bible is through the YouVersion Bible app on my phone. It is, again, totally free, which I'm all about, and a really easy way to read the Bible. You always got it with you. So if you want to follow along in your Bible, on your phone, or if you want to be old school and just look at the Bible on the TV, like they used to in the Old Testament, you can do that this morning as well. So we'll put these verses up. We're going to be in the book of John, starting in chapter 4. Starting in chapter 4, verse 46, it says, "Once more he visited Cana in Galilee." He means Jesus, "where he had turned the water into wine. And there was a certain royal official whose son lay sick at Capernaum. When this man heard that Jesus had arrived in Galilee from Judea, he went to him and begged him to come and heal his son, who was close to death. 'Unless you people see signs and wonders,' Jesus told him, 'you will never believe.' The royal official said, 'Sir, come down before my child dies.' 'Go,' Jesus replied, 'your son will live.' The man took Jesus at his word and departed. While he was still on the way, his servants met him with the news that his boy was living. When he inquired as to the time when his son got better, they said to him, "Yesterday at 1 p.m, the fever left him." Then the father realized that this was the exact time at which Jesus had said to him, "Your son will live." So he and his whole household believed. This was the second sign Jesus performed after coming from Judea to Galilee. So this dad, he's struggling. His son is at home, he's sick, and he is close to dying, and the dad finds out that Jesus is back in town, which, what a crazy time to be alive. Like, you imagine just going to the market to get some apples, and you're like, hey, Jesus is here. That guy's back in town. That's pretty cool. So crazy time to be alive. And so he finds out Jesus is back in town. And so he travels to find Jesus. He goes and he finds him and he tells him, look, this is this situation. My son needs you to heal him. And so they have a little conversation. And then Jesus says, look, I'm going to heal him. Like, you can head back home. And so the dad leaves. He's on this long journey back home when his servants come and tell him that his son has been healed. And when they talk about when it happened, he realizes that his son was healed at the exact time that Jesus promised the healing for his son. So the dad was just amazed at Jesus delivering for him. And at that point, he said, look, I am going to follow Jesus. And then the story tells us that his whole household became Jesus followers. So this is a really cool story, and there's a lot of cool things we can learn from it. So let's hop back into verse 47. We'll put this up on the screen. It says, I think there's a slide before that with just verse 47. There it is. So when this man heard that Jesus had arrived in Galilee from Judea, he went to him and begged him to come and heal his son, who was close to death. So his son's super sick. It seems like he is going to die soon. And so the dad decides that he's going to travel to find Jesus to ask him to heal his son. And so he's leaving, and he realizes that once he leaves his son, that might be the last time he ever sees him alive. And so traveling from Capernaum, where this man's son was, all the way to Galilee, where Jesus was a really long trip. So this is like 20 to 25 miles away, which back then would have been like 8 to 10 hours of walking there. And this dad, he was just desperate. He just wanted to do anything he could to save the life of his son. So he leaves his son, knowing he might not see him again, and he just starts out on this long journey to try to save him, try to find Jesus. And that brings us to our first lesson that we can learn from this story, and that is that dads make sacrifices for their family. Dads make sacrifices for their family. A 20 to 25 mile trip, it was so long. Like, that's the equivalent of if we all went up here to Route 1 and then we turned south and just started walking all the way until we got to 81st Street in Ocean City. Like, crazy, crazy long trip. And that's just one way. And I can't imagine like that trip for that dad, because he must have been thinking that whole time about what was going on with his son. Like, is my son okay? Like, how is he doing? Like, what's going on with him? And so he went through all of that because his love for his son was so great that he would just do anything he could to try to keep him alive. Dads make sacrifices for their family. And 2 Wednesdays ago, I woke up to take my kids and drop them off in the morning. It was just a normal Wednesday morning. And so I'm driving over. I dropped my kids off. And after I dropped them off, I realized when I went to get back in my car that I had a flat tire. And how I didn't realize that while I was driving, I don't know. The music might have been a little loud that day. But it was a mega flat tire. Like, I had a gigantic screw like right through the middle of it. That thing was toast. And so thankfully I realized it before I got back in. And my mom was there. So she had one of those like air pumps you can plug into the car. And so I had like a crazy busy day, and I was like, okay, if I can just get enough air to get back home, then I'll be fine. I'll deal with this tire like on the weekend. But I just had like a lot of work to get done that day. And so thankfully I was able to pump it up. I had enough air to get back home, and I just parked the car in the driveway, and I was like, all right, I will go without a car for a few days, deal with it this weekend. And so I walk into the house, get ready to sit down to start working, and I get a call from my dad. And my dad's like, hey, I heard that you have a flat tire, and I heard that you got a really busy day, and so I just want to let you know, like, I'm in the truck, and I am driving down to your house right now. I'm going to come to your house. I'm going to take your tire off of your car. I'm going to take it over to the shop to get fixed. I'm going to bring it back. I'm going to put it on your car. I'll pay for it all. I also bought you an air pump on Amazon, so if you ever get another flat tire, like, you're going to be good to go. It'll be at your house in like 2 days, and isn't that awesome? Like, it was the craziest thing, and that's literally what he did. He drove 40 minutes to my house, did all of that stuff, got it all taken care of, got it all put back on the car, and he gave up his whole day to help me out. It was the coolest thing, and that's what dads do. Dads go out of their way to help their family. They give up things that they want to do so that their family will feel blessed, so their family will feel loved and taken care of, and that's what we saw the dad in the story do for his family. That's what my dad did for me, and look, if you are a dad, that's what you can do for your family. As dads, we make sacrifices for our family. Maybe that means giving up your day to fix your kid's flat tire. Maybe it means giving up time with your friends so that you can be back at home for bedtime, so you can tuck your kids in and read with them and pray with them before they go to sleep. Maybe it means turning off the TV so that you can make a meal for your wife after she's had a super long day. Dads make sacrifices for their family. Anything that our family needs, we have the opportunity to bless them and to encourage them, and that's what we do. That's what we do as dads. Our family is our priority, and our role is to be there for them. So let's get back into these verses in the book of John, starting in verse 47. It says, "When this man heard that Jesus had arrived in Galilee from Judea, he went to him and begged him to come and heal his son, who was close to death. The royal official said, 'Sir, come down before my child dies.' 'Go,' Jesus replied, 'your son will live.' The man took Jesus at his word and departed." So he travels all this way, and then he finally sees Jesus, and he's just like begging him, like, "Please come and heal my son. Like, I need you to come and heal my son and come back to our town. Like, if you just come back with me, like, you can heal him." And he's doing anything he can to take care of his son and advocate for him. And his son was like in a really bad spot. Like, if you look at this verse in the middle, he says, "Sir, come down before my child dies." This dad, like, he was scared. Like, he knew that this was an intense situation, but he made that long trip to Jesus believing that a miracle could happen. You know, he believed this could happen. He traveled all that way thinking, you know what, I believe that God can change our situation. And that brings us to our next point this morning. And that is that dads believe for the best. Dads believe for the best. There was very little hope of a recovery for this man's son, but he still believed. He still saw a positive outcome, and he did whatever he could to fight for that outcome. And that's what dads do. When there's a problem, dads step up. Dads look for a solution. They look for an answer. They believe in a good outcome and search for ways to bring it about. Dads, you are the rock of your family. You don't crumble under pressure. You keep the family focused on the positives. Dads keep their family focused on hope and a great outcome. And if you think about the story, like, there wasn't a lot of hope for this dad's son at this time. There was not a lot of belief that he was going to get better. And this dad, you know, it says that he was a royal official. He was a man of prestige. He had people under him. He had servants. But none of that could save his son. None of that could save him. The only thing that could save his son was Jesus. And this dad clung to the hope of that miracle. And he pursued that miracle. He saw Jesus deliver for his family. But if he didn't have that hope, if he didn't go and find Jesus, if he had given up on hope and just not believed the best, this miracle, it wouldn't have happened. So when your family's in a difficult situation, you can be the one that keeps them hoping for a good outcome. You can be the one that continues believing for the best, even when things are not looking good. When your kids are struggling in school, you can be the one that encourages them to keep working hard, and you can help them find a tutor. You can help them find another way to learn the material. When your kids are going through relational struggles, you can be there to encourage them and give them wisdom and be like, hey, like, let's try to find ways to fix that friendship. When your kids or your wife are struggling, you can be the one that remains positive and helps change their perspective. Dads always believe for the best. And that brings us to our next point, because where did this dad turn when things got hard? Like, what was his answer when he was in trouble? What was his solution? What helped him continue to believe for the best? It was Jesus. When he was desperate, when he needed an answer and a result, Jesus was his answer and his hope. So here's our next thought this morning. That is, the dads take the lead in faith for their family. Dads take the lead in faith for their family. And in verse 47, we saw this dad go to Jesus. We saw him beg Jesus for healing. And now look at what happened when Jesus delivered that healing. Starting in verse 51. It says, while he was still on the way, his servants met him with the news that his boy was living. When he inquired as to the time when his son got better, they said to him, yesterday at 1 p.m, the fever left him. And the father realized this was the exact time at which Jesus said to him, your son will live. Look at this last part. So he and his whole household believed. This dad went to Jesus in faith, believing that he was going to see a miracle, and he talks to Jesus who promises healing for his son. And so he turns around, he starts heading back home on this long, long trip, and while he's on his way, his servants come to him, and they say, look, like, your son's alive. Like, he is okay. And as they talk about it, he says, when did this happen? And he realizes it was the exact moment that Jesus had promised that healing, and the dad, he had no idea that happened. Like, he was just on his journey. He hadn't heard from anyone, but then his servants come and tell him this news, and look at his response. When the dad realized that his son was healed, when he realized that Jesus delivered for him, look at this last line. He and his whole household believed. When he realized that Jesus healed his son, when he realized that Jesus had the power to heal and that he saw him show up in a hopeless situation for him, he put his faith in Jesus. He said, look, I am going to be a Jesus follower right now. And the part that stands out to me is that it says his whole household believed. So like when he got the news that his son was alive, he wasn't at home. He was still on this journey back home. And so for his family to know that Jesus was the one who healed the son, the dad had to keep going, and then he had to tell his family who was responsible for the son being alive. He had to go home and say, Jesus is the reason our son is alive. Jesus is the one who did this miracle. He turned to Jesus when life got hard, and then he got to experience Jesus' greatness. And then what he did was amazing. He shared that with his family. He made sure they knew that Jesus was the one who healed the son. He believed, and then his whole household believed. Now, how many of you guys have kids? A lot of people have kids, especially on Dad's Day. Look, when you know how kids get stuck on things? Like if they get something in their head, it is just stuck in their head. This weekend, our son Taj has been all about water whenever we're in the car. So he'll just be like, can I have some water? And they're like, we don't have any water. And so what happens is he just yells water louder and louder and louder until we get home, because we actually didn't have any water. Now, something else that he's been kind of hung up on lately is his boo-boos, like his scrapes and his cuts and bruises and stuff. I cannot tell you guys how embarrassing it is for me to say the word boo-boos in public. It makes me very, very uncomfortable, but that's what he calls them, and here we are. So when he gets hurt, or like even when he thinks that he gets hurt, he's like, oh, look at my boo-boos. And every time I ask him how he gets hurt, he always blames it on my parents' cats. I don't know what that's about. Even if he hasn't seen their cats in like a week, he'll be like, yeah, the cats did it. So I don't know what that is about, but something small that I tell Taj when one of those cuts or bruises or scrapes goes away is that I tell him that Jesus is the one who healed his boo-boo. And you know what's cool is now he started to say that. So if I ask him, I'm like, oh, buddy, like your cut's gone. I was like, who healed that? And he said, God and Jesus. It is the coolest thing. I love it. And he's not even 2 years old yet. And so I don't know if he knows what he's saying, but man, I'm going to keep telling him that Jesus is the one who heals his boo-boos. I'm going to keep telling him how awesome church is. I'm going to keep praying with him every single night before he goes to bed. I'm going to keep doing my best every day to show him that Jesus is the most important thing in my life. And I'm going to do those things because my number one hope for my son Taj, my number one hope for my son Indy is that when they get older, that Jesus will be the most important thing in their lives. Look, dads, you take the lead in faith for your family. You are the one that takes the lead in faith for your family. You set the bar. You're the example of what it looks like to follow Jesus, praying with your kids, reading the Bible with your kids, treating your wife with love and respect and compassion and kindness, treating your kids with grace. All of those things, they show your family who Jesus really is to you. And as dads, that's our responsibility. Like we mow the lawn, we try to fix things. When the car needs an oil change, we change the oil. Or if you're like me, you take it to somebody that actually knows how to do something like that. We do all these tasks and we do all these things, but those things are cool. But honestly, like when my son grows up, I don't care how well he can cut the grass. I don't care if he can fix a car. But one thing I want him to know, one thing that I can pass on to him is the importance of having a relationship with Jesus. The dad in this story, he placed his faith in Jesus. He walked a 40-mile round trip just to go see Jesus because his son was dying and he believed that Jesus could change his situation. He believed in Jesus and he showed it with his actions. So how can you show your family that Jesus is the most important thing in your life? How can you model for them what it looks like to be a Jesus follower? And hey, look, you guys are at church this morning. That is awesome. It is Dad's Day. You literally could be anywhere in the whole world. You could still be asleep right now. But you're here. You're modeling for your family what Jesus means to you. And that's amazing. So what are some things that you can do the rest of the week? What can you do on Monday? What can you do on Tuesday? What can you do on Friday? How can you show your family that Jesus is your priority? As dads, we take the lead in faith for our family. And we got one more point this morning, and we're going to look back at two verses in this section one more time, verse 50 and verse 53. So first, verse 50, it's over here on the left. Go, Jesus replied, your son will live. The man took Jesus at his word and departed. Now verse 53. Then the father realized that this was the exact time at which Jesus had said to him, your son will live. So his dad, he did a lot. Like, he was awesome. He was an all-star dad. He made big sacrifices for his family. But one thing he couldn't do was heal his son. He had no power to do that. That was something that only Jesus could do. And that brings us to our final point this morning, and that is that God is the perfect dad. God is the perfect dad. There are limits to what we can do as dads, but there are no limits to what God can do. There are no limits to God's greatness. He's our heavenly Father, and he can do all things, and that brings me a lot of peace. As a dad, that brings me so much peace because I want what's best for my kids. You know, I want them to be full of life and joy and energy. I want them to follow Jesus. I want them to be respectful and kind. I want them to be safe. But I know that so many things are out of my control. And one of those things that's out of my control, just like it was out of the control of the dad in the story, is the ability to protect my kids from everything. So last summer, we went on a little family trip, my wife and Taj and I, and we got a picture that we can put up of that. This is the three of us from last year. So he wasn't even a year old at this point, and our son Indy was not born at this point either. So it was just the three of us, and so we just went away for a week, and we just kind of hung out by a pool and walked around this little city and just kind of relaxed. And one morning, we woke up and it was beautiful. It was sunny. It was awesome. And so we had breakfast together, and then we were like, let's go to the pool. So we went into the room, and we were kind of getting changed, getting ready to go to the pool. And I had Taj in my hands, and I needed to pick something up. So I set him down on the bed, and I reached down to grab something. I took my eye off him for a second, and I looked back up, and he had crawled to the other side of the bed, and he was falling off the bed head first. This bed was 3 feet off. He lands right on his forehead. It was one of the scariest, most awful things I've ever seen. I can't even describe it anymore. It was not cool at all. And so he was just screaming. He was doing all this weird stuff. And so we were really concerned, and we were in a different state. We didn't know where any emergency rooms were, and so we're Googling, where's the closest emergency room? And we're just trying to figure this out, and then we're rushing to the car, and Emily and I, we were just praying. We did not think that it was going to be a good outcome, and so we were just getting over to this emergency room, and Emily texts my family and her family, and so my family's praying, her family's praying, and long story short, everything was okay. They did a lot of scans. We were there all day long, but it was a really scary situation, and it took me a few hours to believe them when they said that he was okay, because it was just a really bad situation. And look, when you're a parent, your kids look to you for reassurance. They look to you for answers. They look to you for peace. and comfort. And in a situation like that, like I didn't have any reassurance to give. Like not genuinely, because I didn't know if he was going to be okay. And I couldn't change that situation. As dumb as I felt for leaving him on the bed, like I couldn't go back and make a better decision in that moment. And I had no power to take away his pain. I had no power to heal any injuries he had. And that was a weird place to be in. Because I could say to him, like, buddy, like everything's going to be okay. But like, I didn't know. I really didn't know. And I didn't have any control over that situation. But what got me through that, what helped me to have confidence to be brave for my son, what helped me to continue to believe for the best in that situation was that I knew that God did have the control over that situation. Emily and I believed that God could heal any injury that he had. We know that God can heal broken bones. He can erase scars. He can literally do anything. And for me, one of the scariest things about being a parent is not having control. Like not being able to protect my kids from anything that may happen in life. But what gives me peace is knowing that while I can't always protect my kids from life, I know that God can. He can do anything. He is the perfect dad. And look at this verse with me. This is Psalm 25, verse 3. It says, "No one who hopes in you will ever be put to shame." Can we read that together? No one who hopes in you will ever be put to shame. No one who hopes in God will ever be put to shame. He will not let us down. He won't disappoint us. Our God is perfect. He cares deeply about you. He wants what's best for you. He has control over all of the situations in our lives. Look, today is a day to celebrate dads. It's a day to celebrate our perfect heavenly Father. It is a day to celebrate our earthly dads because dads make sacrifices for their family. Dads believe for the best. And dads take the lead in faith for their family. And look, we're going to close in a minute, but as you're leaving this morning, please find a dad and give him a high five. Because being a dad is hard work. There's a lot of responsibility. It is not always easy. So find a dad. Tell them you appreciate them. And look, dads, I am so thankful for you. I am thankful for the effort that you put in every single day for your family. You guys are awesome. I hope you feel celebrated today. I hope you have a relaxing day. Let's pray. God, I thank you so much for today. I thank you for dads, and I thank you the impact they have on our lives. And as a dad, I thank you for the responsibility that I can have in my family to lead them closer to you. I thank you for being the example of what a perfect dad looks like, so that when I fall short, I can look to you and see how you do it and how great you are at being a dad. And I pray, God, that you would give all the dads in their room energy and confidence and help them to feel appreciated. And I pray that you would help all of us to strive every day to be great for you and to be great for our family. I pray all this in your name. Amen.